I want you to think about some of the best creators that you watch on the internet. Casey Neistat, Peter McKinnon, iJustine, Corey Sanchez, Alex Hormozy, Ali Abdaal, and I want you to stop watching them for the next 6 months. I believe that we are in a pinnacle moment on social media where over the next few years we're going to see either a huge uprise of amazing brands and amazing new creators or the downfall of thousands of others purely based on the content that we create. And this goes for every platform, not just YouTube. I'm talking about LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, and everything else. Even people over on LinkedIn like Stephen Barlett, Chris Donnelly, Yasmin Alec, Lara Acosta, Justin Welsh, stop consuming their content for the next 6 months. Back in the day, I watched a huge amount of Casey Neistat, and because of that, I became influenced into creating weekly vlogs whilst I was going through university. Good merry morning to you guys. How are you guys doing? Today is university day, which means we've got so much work to do. I've got to catch up on all the branding, literally everything for this campaign that I'm doing. 4 years ago, I was obsessed with Peter McKinnon. At the time was the GOAT on YouTube for learning about videography and how to edit. So I started to make videos around talking about my camera equipment and talking about how to edit in Premiere Pro.
Especially the nifty 50. You can get it for like 85 quid on Amazon. £85 for a camera lens is nothing.
2 years ago, I was obsessed with watching and consuming Alex Hormozy's content and advice. So a lot of my content started to steer towards financial advice and recommendations to how to grow a business and get out of the metaphorical rat race. Today, I'm going to share 5 mistakes that I have made whilst running my business over the last 5 years. You're not stupid, you get the idea that I'm going down here. I was consuming all of this content whilst building my first agency, and I very quickly realized that I was becoming incredibly influenced by the consumption of such a variety of different creators that my messaging and my positioning was so varied and so diversified that there was no clarity around what I was trying to say. Some days I'd be creating videos around starting a business, others I'd be doing Adobe tutorials, the next I'd be doing tech reviews, and it all just got very vanilla. I learned that my creative output as a video creator is tied to those that I consume from. It's a very similar thing in life to those that you spend your most time around. And my little saying is you are an amalgamation of the 5 people that you are around the most. For example, if you've got friends that are into drinking and partying and all this sort of stuff, nightlife and, then chances are you're probably going to be not too dissimilar. On the other hand, if you are surrounded by 5 people all the time, your parents that run their own businesses and are entrepreneurs, friends that are building businesses, or mates that are into financial investing and financial literacy, chances are you're going to do pretty well because you're running your own business, you're understanding how to manage money, and you're going to live a little bit of a different lifestyle to the previous example. When you start making videos, in my opinion, is the most crucial point. It really sets the direction and the path that you go down. That point in time is really where you start to think of new ideas. You start to really finesse and fine tune your own sort of style and the way that you present, the way that you deliver the value and the message of your content. And it's crucial because you're figuring that out yourself. You're not influenced by other creators at that point. And as soon as you are, it starts to become very blurred. The problem is that most people who are new to creating content then go and source information and ideas and unique styles of delivery from other creators that are smashing it, that have big followings, that have big leverage and big influence, and they take what they say in terms of advice and recommendation as verbatim. They see that as truth, so they start to do it for themselves. An example of this is, let's say Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, saying to post 30 pieces of content on every single platform every day. Don't do that because you're going to burn out in about 3 months and you're going to never want to post content on the internet ever again. If iJustine said to you that she's just bought this new laptop, it's £10,000, it's the only thing she'd now recommend for editing videos, it doesn't mean you need to then go and buy that specific laptop. We live now in a world and a society where we have access to so much information and everybody has their own opinion and way of doing things that not every single person can be right. A lot of people will monetize that information through things like communities, courses, consulting, teaching, guiding, etc. And they'll charge you a pretty penny for it. Some people, like myself, will share that advice online for free. They'll share their experience. They won't tell people what to do specifically, but they will tell stories and let the consumer, you guys, dictate and try and pull something out of that they can implement in action for themselves. And a lot of other creators do just practice what they preach. They just do the do without telling people to do anything. And they say, lead by example, not by what I say, but what I do. With so many styles and pieces of information and frameworks and templates and tutorials and approaches and delivery systems, not every single person can be right. Let's say, for example, that you consume a lot of Lara Acosta on LinkedIn, a very big name here, so I'm going to be very careful to not slag her off. She here has a framework called the SLAY framework, the SLAY framework, which starts with story, lesson, actionable advice, and you. Okay, this is her framework for setting out posts, telling stories, giving people a value to take away in terms of lesson, what's the action steps, and give a bit of credibility in terms of why people should listen to you. Okay, so it's actually a very clever way of packaging up a written piece of content. If you consume a lot of content from Peter McKinnon on YouTube, for example, a very, very, very amazingly creative videographer, content creator, if he just uses Canon cameras all the time, chances are a lot of you are going to watch that and go, well, he's not using a Sony or he's not using anything else, so Canon must be the best one. I'm going to start to use the Canon cameras. If you watch a lot of Stephen Bartlett and his DOAC, Diary of a CEO podcast, chances are you're going to consume that and go, oh, you know what? I think I should start a podcast because it's working for Stephen. And if it's working for Stephen, that's definitely going to work for me. Naturally, you as a consumer compare yourself to the people who are technically in the 1%. They're the ones who have smashed it, that are, huge leverage, huge follower accounts, getting lots of engagement, reach, impressions, views, etc. And they're doing really well for themselves. And we take what they say as evidence that what they're doing is going to work for us. So we do what they do for us. The problem is, when you do that, you remove all of the nuance. Okay, you remove the fact that Alex Hormozy and Gary Vaynerchuk and Ali Abdaal have huge teams of editors, of copywriters, of designers, of social media managers that pull this content out. You can't keep up with that level of output and production quality and frequency because you haven't got the infrastructure or the support at the same level that they do. You also forget that they have been through many years of trial and error, mistakes and finesse that have got them to where they are now. They didn't just suddenly go, wow, I'm gonna make videos, bang, here's a viral piece of content. That's not at all what happened. They probably slaved away for 5-10 years in the trenches trying to figure shit out until they realized that actually this way works for me specifically. You also remove the nuance of money. A lot of people might have more money than you, so they can buy better equipment and better kit and hire more people to be able to support them, and maybe you just don't. Maybe you're just not at that point in your business or your life where you've got that much free capital and you just can't invest that into what you love doing, which for me is making videos. The point that I'm trying to make with this video is that if you do not stop consuming these top 1% of creators and comparing yourself to everything that they do, the way that they do things, the way they speak, the frameworks that they have, the kit that they use, you will become very quickly influenced, and that will adapt and tweak and almost pre-decide the path that you go down. What happens if you do become influenced by these creators is pretty much what's happening on YouTube right now as I see it anyway. Again, this isn't really just YouTube specific, it does go into other platforms, but more so now it's YouTube. I say also a little bit of LinkedIn as well. Within every niche, whether that's gaming, marketing, business development, financial literacy, copywriting, productivity, everybody's starting to feel the same. Mark Tilbury in the financial space also looks like Misha, who is an amazing creator who talks about investment and kind of setting yourself up for the future, who also looks like Ali Abdaal, who talks about productivity and talks about building his business. They all kind of look the same to a degree. Again, I don't say that to slag people off or to put them down, because they're great creators, but everyone's starting to blend into the same there. That is caused by the tightness of the community. All of these very big creators consume content from the top 1% pool of other creators who are in their niche, and naturally they become influenced by their decisions that they make and the outputs that they share into the world, their styles of content, the way that they present, what kit they're using, the color grades that they're adding on, the sound effects, music, and all the lot. The same is happening on LinkedIn right now. Everybody on LinkedIn right now wants to learn and write like a creator called Justin Welsh. Justin Welsh kind of feels a little bit like Lara Costa. Lara Costa feels very similar to Yasmin Alec. They're all very good creators, and I don't want to put it out there saying that I think they're bad and you should stop watching them because they're bad. They're actually very good. I'm just trying to say it's getting very hard to differentiate yourself now with how competitive creating videos is. If everybody on social media says the same stuff, does the same things with slight nuances or slight variations here and there, but not enough to differentiate and finesse and stand out outside of the pack, everything becomes very vanilla, it becomes very boring, it becomes dry, it becomes drab, and social media, the way that it works really changes them. And herein lies the opportunity that I think is happening right now. The gap is massive. I've said this in other videos before, but the gap is massive to be able to create and stand out and find your own 2 feet and develop your own style as everything is becoming retrospective to their niches, so similar and so vanilla and so done before, that actually the gap and the opportunity to do something very different and to be seen as a differentiator and an innovator in the video space or whatever industry you're in is absolutely massive. If that takes your fancy and you want to be seen as a differentiator and you want to stand on your own 2 feet and you want to adopt a new style that hasn't been done before, that requires a lot of mental resilience. That requires you to not use ChatGPT to script your videos or to give you 50 ideas around this topic. It requires you to not consume from other creators who are in your niche or who are the top creators on that platform to try and understand how they do things, how they edit their videos, how they structure them, how they grade them, how they design them, how they script them. You have to sit with your brain in quiet or go out for a walk and remove yourself from the noise. Okay. What I will say is that a lot of people can't knack that. Okay. A lot of people will throw in the towel after a month of posting because they haven't gone viral, even though they've copied this framework or this formula, or they've tried to replicate this big creator or this amazing podcast. Stephen Bartlett's got this, so why isn't my podcast taking off? People really are very quick to throw in the towel when things don't work out. And that's because a lot of these frameworks don't work. A lot of these tips and advice are subjective. There's cadence to them. There's a lot of history to them as well that are naturally subjective to the creator who's showing that information. The strategy or the framework that they use for their content and their videos and their business probably won't work for you because you're in a very different scenario. Maybe you run a different business, maybe you have a different energy, you have a different presence online, your offer is maybe not as good, or maybe it's even better, I don't know. There's so many nuances to this that just because someone says this is going to happen, it doesn't mean that the output or the outcome is going to be exact, you know? You will face a lot of setbacks when you create your own style and you actually have to think for yourself. You'll have imposter syndrome like I've been through recently. You'll have anxiety around, am I good enough? Should I even really be sharing this information? You'll be trying to perfect things that shouldn't really be perfected because the beauty of them is that you're trying to figure them out as you progress. Then what happens is as you start to underperform or things aren't going to plan, you start to compare to other people. You start to say, hey, John Doe's content's doing better than mine. We're in the same industry. Why is his doing better and mine's not? The platform must hate me. The grass is never greener on the other side. And I've learned that the hard way in business and in marketing, to be fair. If you can have the mental resilience and mental toughness to consume content from great creators that you see as inspiration, that you don't compare yourself to, you can be a lot more relaxed with this not consuming content for 6 months rule. But if you're kind of like me, where you consume content actively and try and grade yourself against or compare or judge yourself based on how they're performing and you're performing, that's really dangerous. And that's really damaging, not just for you mentally, but creatively. In terms of identifying your style and finding your own 2 feet and going down a path that hasn't been trodden before. I get it as well because it feels productive. You're gaining new knowledge. Us as humans inherently want to consume as much information as possible. We're information hoarders, right? The problem is a lot of it just sits up there and it feels productive because you've got this information, but there's one thing to consume it and there's one thing to implement it. Through figuring out your own style for yourself, it will feel more natural. You'll be able to present your videos better to camera. The right people will start following you, not because of the information that you elicit, but because of the way that you are and the way that you do things in your own personality and your own vibe and your own energy. I know this sounds a little bit wishy-washy as well. I'm very aware of that. It just won't feel manufactured. It will feel very genuine, very personable, and buzzword, very authentic. Woo! People really feed off of that human energy. And I think I've said this in other videos, but the goal of marketing is to not beat the algorithm. It's to relate to people. If you can do that and you can master that, you're going to build a great business and you're going to build a great community and a great audience of people that could be friends, could be just a good black book of connections, or could be customers later down the line. You never know. That, in my opinion, is how you create great videos. It's not consuming content from other people. Yes, there's amazing creators out there, but if you haven't got that toughness and that discipline to not consume and compare, then it's really hard to do that. And from my experience, there's more people that consume and compare as opposed to consume and implement, okay? So just be very conscious of it when you are consuming content from other creators. You don't have to go as far as 6 months of not watching them. It's there to make a point. It's there to say, don't consume and compare, consume and action and learn and integrate things and finesse and improve and innovate. You know, that's what creating videos and that's how you create content that really performs well, by finding your own 2 feet, by finding your own style. And to do that, you've got to think on your own 2 feet, not from what other people are doing. Now, if you don't know how to make videos yet, and maybe you're just getting started, but you're not sure on the first steps to do things, I've created a completely free video starter pack workshop. It's 35 minutes. The link will be either down there or up there, depending on what this video is going on. And it's gonna help you to be able to create a video in one sitting that you can then post on the internet, grow your business, market your business, build your personal brand and all that good stuff. It literally covers everything from start to finish, planning, filming, editing. Go and check it out. Okay, it's really, really good. I'm biased though, because I made it. So yeah, I think it's great, but it might be shit, who knows? I'm Jack, I've created videos for over a decade, and my goal with my content is to help you become a better video creator for free. So 2 ways that you can do that right now. You can go check out this video right here that will help you to become a better video creator. Or if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can go and check this one out as well. I try to post videos, touch wood, every single week. Sometimes I'm not able to, but sometimes I try my best, is what I'm trying to say. Go and check it out. And until then, I shall see you in next week's video. Ciao.